Each morning she issues him with a shopping list of goods to go and steal that day.
But I guess the question is, do we report it? Yes, we do. Have colleagues for a long time felt confident it will do any good? No.
On Tuesday the 3rd of September 2024, the Justice and Home Affairs Committee had a meeting on tackling shoplifting, and the witnesses were Professor Emmeline Taylor, School of Policy and Global Affairs at the University of London, Paul Gerrard, Public Affairs and Board Secretariat Director for the Co-op Group. And then Baroness Buscombe started by reflecting on her early belief that everyone was equal under the law, which she now sees as unrealistic given current disparities. She noted public awareness of these inequalities had grown and people seem to accept minor crime more readily, as long as it's not on the grand scale of that like Philip Green. She seeks clarification on what constitutes organised crime and the so-called 80-20 rule, and then criticised what she views as lazy journalism that attributes crime solely to cost of living issues, suggesting instead that organised crime exploits perceived lawlessness in various communities. Well, what the witnesses had to say was very interesting.
Absolutely, I agree with that synopsis that you've given. I'll first talk to the contribution of around organised crime that we're seeing. So just briefly referring back to that definition that Operation Pegasus uses. So a key bit is that it's a series of offences impacting on two or more police forces. However, we know that a large proportion of offenders operate within one police force area, and we could refer to them as local prolific offenders. And these are the individuals that shop workers will probably know by sight, so they might even know them by name, they might even know where they reside. But many of these individuals have reached a scale of activity and established pre-arranged networks of buyers or fences for the stolen goods that they steal that can only be described as organised, yet they only operate within one police force area. So there's a difficulty there in terms of the attention that's being given to these different stratums of organised criminals. It's very difficult to confidently assess the relative contribution of organised crime, going back to how I started in terms of the chronic underreporting that we have in this country. So that means that we don't have the visibility around who exactly is committing these offences. There has been some estimates, however. So the Centre for Social Justice estimate that 70% of prolific local organised criminals are stealing to fund a drug addiction. So we have some figures there. I think some of the difficulty around this is going back to the definitional issues. So, for example, if I may just elaborate with a quick illustration of an individual, a drug-affected, prolific offender operating in Manchester. He's homeless. He's being housed by a local woman who provides him with accommodation and somewhere for him to safely administer his drugs of choice. Each morning she issues him with a shopping list of goods to go and steal that day. And so he then returns him back to her property. She contacts her established network of buyers, which she found through an online marketplace initially. They in turn are giving her shopping lists for her to then pass on. And just to really show just the scale and severity of this, a typical daily drug addiction bill for somebody is around £300. When you steal property and then sell it on, you typically get a third of that. So they need to steal approximately £900 a day and then have an established network of buyers to shift that, to translate those goods into money to purchase drugs. This can only be described as organised, but yet it isn't meeting those definitional thresholds. But that's the figures that we're looking at. That equates to almost £500,000 a year, and that's just one individual operating in Manchester.
Can I ask Paul if you would like to contribute to this part?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you.
We've seen over the last year, 18 months, in the Co-op, we run 2,500 stores across the country, and we supply another 5,000 independent stores. We've seen crime in our own stores in the 2,500 go up by 44%. Within that, we've seen a rise of 35% in violence and abuse. Okay, crime, that level of crime is in our stores 1,000 incidents every single day. That is the highest level we have ever seen. Levels of abuse are at the highest level we have ever seen. And violence has dipped slightly in 2024, but it's still at a very high level. I think what Emmeline paints there is a really important point, which is that within that, we are not seeing, there's always been people who have stolen to make ends meet. That's always happened. It continues to happen. You could argue it might happen more in a cost of living crisis, fine. That isn't what is driving a 44% increase. What is driving a 44% increase is people who are stealing to order, huge volumes, people coming into our store with wheelie bins, people coming into our store with builders' bags to steal the entire confectionery section, the entire spirit section, the entire meat section. And the point about these people, and Emmeline has always painted it perfectly, they are stealing to order. If one of my colleagues gets in the way, they won't say, oh, sorry, and walk out. There will be a threat. There will be a violent threat. There might be a knife. There might be a syringe. I've had colleagues attacked with a medieval mace. We've had colleagues lose their eye. We've had colleagues miscarry. What comes with what Emmeline has described is a level of violence, abuse and threat that nobody in retail, and I have colleagues who've been in retail for 40 years, have ever seen before. And just to paint one last picture of this, we have had to move colleagues from their home because they have been followed from the store to their home and threatened at their home. These are people running a store that during the pandemic was the only place people could go, and when we were all told to stay at home and keep safe, my colleagues were in those stores making sure people could buy food and water. They are being followed home at times and threatened at home. So what Emmeline describes is absolutely right. I talk to my colleagues on a weekly basis about this, and the stories they tell. I'm a former law enforcement officer. I worked in Her Majesty's Customs and Excise for 20 years. I was a law enforcement officer for 10 years. This isn't an unfamiliar world to me. The idea that my colleagues are facing this is just remarkable.
Mr. Gerrard, just if we take the example of one of your colleagues working in one of the stores going through the experience that you've just described, what does the co-op do about it?
So we have we take our view is that keeping colleagues safe is our first priority, and it's our responsibility. Depending on what happens, so for example, every day hundreds of my colleagues will be abused and threatened. We spend money to keep the colleagues safe in the store. We spend 4 times the sector average to keep colleagues safe in the store. If an incident happens, then we take a number of measures. The colleague will be looked after. They'll get counselling. They'll have time off as they need it. If we will increase the security if we need into that store. We will close the store. We will do whatever we need to do to keep colleagues safe, because stock can be replaced, colleagues can't.
I'm very grateful for that, and the figures are alarming. If you really are saying 400 colleagues a day are abused at some level,
hundreds of colleagues are abused a day.
Yeah, I mean that is really concerning. But the interesting thing is, nothing in what you answered to my question about what does the co-op do made any reference to reporting this to the police.
So the co-op, we will report all serious levels of crime.
Right, I just want to be clear. What definition of serious is here? A colleague threatened.
So if a colleague is threatened, that will invariably be reported to the police. There is an interesting question, I'm sure the committee will come to this, about the relationship between the reporting of crime to the police and the police response. Now, we need to be clear, and Emmeline referred to this. Police data in this area is pretty poor. Okay, we did a Freedom of Information request last year of all the police forces, and what that told us is that when we report a crime, violence, abuse, large-scale theft, the police in Q1 2023 did not turn up in 70% of occasions. Let me give you an example. One of my colleagues not very far from this place was suffering armed robbery, 3 masked men coming in, jumping behind the kiosk with knives. She's reporting it to the police. The last time she reported it, she was told by the police, look, are they still in the store? No. In that case, don't ring again, just ring 101. 101 is the non-emergency number for an armed robbery. So we absolutely do report. But there was a point, and I think things have changed, we may come on to this. If the police are not turning up, the confidence that my colleagues have to report incidents to the police diminishes, and their willingness to do so diminishes as well. I'll leave you with one last stat, if I may, Chair, and then I'll be quiet. We deploy undercover guards who are highly trained through our security contractor, and they operate undercover, and they will apprehend individuals in store who are attacking colleagues or large-scale theft. They will then detain them, make a citizen's arrest, and call the police. Up until October last year, even though we had the individual in our custody, the police did not turn up to complete that arrest in 80% of occasions. That means we let the individual go. Now, things have changed, and I hope I'll be able to do that, because I think you've heard from Chief Constable Blakeman, who I think has made a real difference in this space. But I guess my point, the question is, do we report it? Yes, we do. Have colleagues for a long time felt confident it will do any good? No.
Wow. Now, I found both these witnesses, what they had to say was very fascinating, incredibly scary too. What these people working in these shops have to deal with sounds really scary and sad as well, doesn't it? That must be a really scary experience, being followed home and then threatened. And when you ring the police, all you get is a reply is, don't bother ringing us, ring 101. Amazing, eh? But anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know down below, and I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.